everyone, do you have a young dog at home that's giving you a hard time on stacking and standing still? Stay tuned, we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to handle your way through that problem. Thanks for tuning in. This is Phil Booth from Blue Rose Kennels. It's my turn today to give you some tips and tricks. Today we're going to be working on some training techniques for your young dogs, your inexperienced dogs. The dogs you're going to see here today have actually only one has ever been in the ring before. The rest are very, very new young adults. So we're going to get to work with them and to work with you on how to handle their behavior and some quick tips and tricks on how to make them or help them become the show dogs we all want them to be. Now we're going to head outside and start the training. Okay, let's start. Our first dog is, as you can see, an 8-month-old Akita puppy. You're going to notice some things that happen to all of us, professionals and owners alike. Backing out of the leash initially, trying to make their way, not sure what's going on. As I mentioned before, just stay persistent and easy. Then you'll see right there the common behavior of some new puppies. When you go to set their rears, they're going to tuck their tail or sit or act a little insecure or uneasy. Here we stay with the front, and you'll see the dog's rear moves out of balance. You're going to try and pull it back towards you a little bit. Everything being smooth, and then don't be afraid just to start over. Here you're going to see I'm using a toy to get the dog's attention a little bit. Try something different. You'll notice in most of these videos and most of these clips that the first thing I'm doing when the dog stops is I'm quickly assessing where the feet are, where each foot is, so I can begin my stacking procedure or method based on how the dog walked into the stack or where it's standing on its own. You'll see there that once the dog gets comfortable, I'm getting the tail, and then as you can see, just like any young dog, they get tired or over it, preoccupied. We want to make it fun, so the next clip here, you saw the dog coming in with a toy in its mouth. It's all about having fun for both the exhibitor and the dog. I think this dog here is really a great example of all the different things that dogs can do when you're their first steps in learning. They don't know what you want, and we don't know what they are going to do, so it's best to work together. Here you see we've got it basically everything right. Give it a little praise and then move on. In the beginning, you don't want to make these things last too long. I've never been one for training until they move or making them stand still until they move. I like to see what I want to see, get them where I want to be, and then get them off it right away in the beginning. So it's fun. Now we're going to start a little different method here. We're going to start using some bait or some toys or something to get the dog's attention. Most young dogs of any breed, their attention span, just like young children, is pretty short. Then when you get what you want, give them some praise, confidence by touching their back or their neck, a little scratch here and there. You can see that it's improvement, but not perfection. That's why you have to stay at it. Now we're going to move the dog around a little and see if this particular dog may be more inclined to walk into a stack, or what we call free bait. There, one of my helpers, aka wife, is throwing me the toy. But some dogs prefer less is more. Less hand touching, less stacking. If you can get them to the more you can get them to do on their own, the less you have to do for them. As you can see there, the dog is interested in the toy, briefly. We see where the dog stops and we go from there. As with any other new dog, you're basically watching the first time anyone's ever tried to set this puppy up. So you're seeing this dog the very first time anybody's ever tried to work with it a little bit. And as you can see from the beginning, and the tail, and the tucking of the tail, and the sitting, we're getting improvement. Here's our next dog, Golden Retriever, 15-month-old dog. Again, this is his first time with us, or anyone to my knowledge, about stacking. Obviously, we talked about our tips and tricks with the last dog. A little bit of a handful, trying to get into each individual tip or trick was a little difficult. I'll try and do a little better on this one. This puppy here, as you can see, I walked it into its stack, and it was quite cooperative. So tip one is to, when you walk your dog, evaluate where the dog's feet are. That's assess your situation, assess what you need to do. In that last little clip there, you can see the tail, and you'll probably see again here more often than not. I am aware of where a Golden Retriever's tail is supposed to be exhibited, but as you can see, he's a little insecure, tucking his rear and his tail, clamping a little bit. So I'll go the base of the tail, get underneath there, pull it up over where it should be to try and get him to relax. You're also going to notice this dog has a tendency to dip his rear or to slope his top line a little bit. Simply gently going between the rear legs and pulling up, or underneath in the groin area and pushing up a little bit sometimes helps a lot. Get them relaxed and get your top line where it needs to be. So you'll see the same sort of technique as I used with the Akita. This one a little bit more, I'm using a little more food. He seems to be a little more food motivated. Here again, keep the food out of their mouth. No judge wants to see a mouthful of food. So we do our best to do that. And just keep persistent. Tip two, be persistent. Be calm. Let the dog have fun. Move him around, walk him around. Don't just stand around with him and give him a break. As you can see, at times I'm walking him around and showing him food, somewhat free baiting, somewhat hand stacking, using a combination of both to try and determine what the dog's more comfortable with. As you can see from most of these clips on this dog, the dog's front's typically in pretty good position. In another video one day, we'll talk about, in an advance maybe, of how to quickly get your dog looking the way it should. Sometimes only needing to touch 1 foot or 2. If the dog, gets into a position that is acceptable, just like in many things in life, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. Okay, here's our third dog. This is, as you can see on the screen, an 18-month-old Giant Schnauzer. We have worked with her a little bit prior to this day, but anybody that knows Giant Schnauzer, if you ever saw the movie 50 First Dates, it may apply to a Giant Schnauzer. Sometimes they have to relearn everything over and over, but they're a wonderful breed and very willing to please. So we watch how it goes here with our Giant. Same principles apply. You're going to evaluate where the dog stops its feet. There I touched 2 feet, and we're in pretty good shape. At this stage of the game, when training these young dogs, we're not, for me, everybody does it a little different. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for more consistency and comfortable and calm and at ease with the dog, so they're comfortable in doing what I'm asking them to do. The perfection can come a little later. We're trying here just to get the basics. So that may be, I think we're at tip 3 now. Tip 3, don't try and attain perfection. Just try and be prevalent and proficient, very proficient with the basics. You'll see this dog, which is very common for some dogs, to look up at the handler or trying to play a little bit. Don't discourage that right away. Let the dog have a little fun. Again, I'm stroking the dog's neck and back, giving them confidence, and that's a calming thing for the dogs once they get in the right position. So we're going to go right into tip 4, which would probably be making sure your dog is calm and comfortable, and give it reassurance with your hands. Your hands can do both correction and affirmation. So when it's appropriate, you're going to want to give your dog confidence and affirmation like that with their hands on their neck, down their back. Use your voice. Tell them good dog, good boy, whatever you want to use. Okay, here we have our 4th dog, a 3-year-old Smooth Fox Terrier. As some of you may or may not know, terriers are a little busy, a little inquisitive, so sometimes you gotta let them wind down a little. As you can see, I tried to touch the dog's tail and wasn't quite ready to be touched. In this breed and in many terrier breeds, there's a lot more just walking into your stack, a lot less hand stacking, but you do have to be able to get your dog comfortable where you can hand stack or assist in the hand stacking. You're going to notice in many of these clips that you'll see me maneuvering the leash forward, back, left or right. That's to try and get the dog's feet, leg, or body in a proper position. Here you'll see me put my bait down and try and get the arch of the neck correct. Then we're finally able to touch the dog's rear a little bit, reset it, and he's getting comfortable as time goes on. There you go. Pretty good thing. You'll see me backing him up, maybe to get his distance between his front and his rear legs proper. Then showing him some food, touching the tail again to reset the rear, just so he's comfortable with that. A lot of times in practicing, you do those things just to get him comfortable, whether you're actually changing anything or not. There, that was a little example of me pulling the leash to the left to try and get the dog off its feet. There's a pretty good profile. The optimum way to show your dog is in full profile 90% of the time. Never ever, in my opinion, do you have the dog's rear facing or predominant to the center of the ring. Some would disagree, but I don't find a problem at times if you have the dog's front somewhat facing into the ring first. You saw there briefly of attempting to hand stack or put my hands to fix the front of the dog. There you have the rear more prevalent into the ring. I would say no, there's a good profile. Use the leash and pressure on the leash to maneuver the dog without touching it. Now we've got the dog calm. Sometimes you'll be able to do just that. Put your hand right between their rear legs, lift them up, and drop it back down. Now we're getting into a little more of a perfection, just letting the dog know that it's okay for you to touch them and reset their feet. Again, like the other breeds, your hands do a lot of the work, reassurance and calming the dog. But as you can see from when this started, the dog's much more calm now. And I'm able, should I choose, I'm able to pretty much touch any foot to replace it or set it up. So clearly tip 5 is going to be patience. Lots of patience. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned some tips and tricks. I'm not your usual host, but I try to do my best. Amy and I have a few different techniques, but the one thing we do have in common is you don't give up. And each dog is an individual dog, and some things you use for one, you don't use on another. So just keep that in mind and stay persistent. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't forget, folks, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the box below. Like our video, subscribe to our channel, ring the bell, and most importantly, if you think it was helpful to you and you care to share it with someone else, feel free. We love to have our information shared to as many people as could possibly use it. See you next time.